Okay.
No, first law. Keep going, Rob.
We are a professional podcast.
We are.
Welcome to AT Banter, the podcast where we discuss anything and everything regarding the world of assistive technology. With our hosts, Steve Barkley, Rob Minot, and Ryan Fleury. Now, let's banter.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of AT Banter. I am Rob Minot, and today I'm joined by Ryan Fleury.
Howdy.
And Steve Barkley.
Episode 37.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we're on fire today. I feel like we're just the epitome of professionalism today. I feel very on today.
We'll see how that works out.
Yeah, we will.
Thank God for editing.
I probably just jinxed myself, but yeah. Cue the edits.
Yeah. Okay, let's do a quick test.
No, I didn't. I'm not that.
No, come on. Quick test. Let's see how on you are.
Let's go.
Okay. What's our email address?
Our email address is atbanterpodcast@gmail.com.
No, it's not.
Don't do that.
You are on.
Well, you notice I had to close my eyes and concentrate, and I had to picture the words in my head.
Visualize.
I had to visualize. How's everyone doing?
I'm good. Steve, how you doing?
I'm just fabu.
Excellent.
It's Thursday.
It is.
It's almost Friday.
Almost.
We've almost made it.
You're supposed to get snow all weekend.
I don't believe that when I see it. I'm not seeing it. I don't buy it.
Hey, and we're actually recording this on Groundhog Day.
That's true, too.
And you hear that damn groundhog popped up and said there's going to be 6 more damn weeks of winter.
I did indeed.
Yeah. I think somebody needs to deal with that groundhog.
The greatest tweet I saw about that this morning was somebody said, only in America would we take our weather, or would we put stock into what a giant rodent says, but yet discount climate science.
That's funny.
It's so true. Yep, those Trump jokes write themselves.
They do.
I wonder what he's going to do today. Well, we don't know what Trump's going to do today, but we do know what we're going to do today.
What are we going to do today?
We are going to be talking to Mel Bergman, who is the founder of Wheelie Guitars, which is a custom guitar manufacturer that makes guitars specifically for people in wheelchairs.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Should be a good show.
It should be very interesting, especially for you guitar nerds.
Absolutely. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I know. You shot out of your office to come. You were the first one sitting down today.
I am vibrating like an E-string.
We usually have to go fetch you.
Like a G-string?
Well, I broke my G-string the other day. I know.
But I'm bummed.
Take the visuals on that.
Thanks for everybody for tuning in. I've been Rob Minot.
No, this is the intro. We did the outro.
I'm going home. No, it should be.
No. Wait.
What?
How'd you break your G-string?
I was changing strings and I wound it too tight.
I see.
Oh, I thought you were kidding.
But you have the roadie tuner.
I wasn't using the roadie tuner.
That's why you broke your G-string.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't feel bad, everybody. I have no idea what they're talking about either. You have a roadie?
A roadie tuner. It's a Bluetooth connected guitar tuner, and you can pair it up with like your mobile phone, and you hold your mobile phone in front of your guitar, and you put the tuner on one of your guitar pegs, and you pluck the string, and it automatically winds and tunes the string for you.
What? That sounds like cheating.
It totally is cheating.
But you know you're always in tune.
Yeah.
I guess.
And it's faster.
Yeah, it tunes perfectly. You don't have to rely on my wonky ear.
Yeah, well, I noticed you guys didn't bring those in for the Christmas episode.
What?
Obviously, we weren't important enough to...
We brought the guitars in.
Yeah, but you didn't bring your tuners in.
I don't have a roadie tuner. I got to get one.
I seem to remember you saying, good enough.
That's true. I did. Yep.
No, but... All right. Well, we are very happy to have with us today Mel Bergman, who is the founder of Wheelie Guitars, which is a custom guitar manufacturer that builds guitars specifically for people who are in wheelchairs. Mel, thanks for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me.
So, I don't know, give us a little bit of background. How did this all come about?
Well, this is a rather long story. I've started building guitars back in 1992 on a casual basis for my band and for some friends, and I'd always been doing it. And 4 years ago, I made a decision that I was going to do this full time, starting to build custom guitars, which I did, and I had some really interesting builds and some really interesting customers. But I realized that just doing custom guitars wasn't as fulfilling as I thought it was going to be. It's great, building some really cool stuff. But I started to think about what I could do that was different. And you go to the NAMM show, which is the big North American Music Merchants show. It's the big trade show for all things to do with music. And I looked, and there was so many guys making guitars. I mean, there's a lot of competition, and most of them are guitars that are a variation of a Fender or a Gibson. Mm-hmm. So I just started thinking, what can I do different? What can I do different? And I came up with a couple of designs for some other guitars that were kind of neat. And how the wheelie, so all this was going on, and how the wheelie came about. About 3 years ago, I went to a conference, and on the way back, I was with my friend Stan, and my friend Stan says, I'm going to make a video of my friend Dean Zimmer. And Dean Zimmer's in a wheelchair, and he's a drummer, and he could never get a gig because he'd show up for the, drummer wanted. He'd show up, and they'd be like, you're in a wheelchair. And the guy's a fan, so he would never get hired for these gigs. So Stan did this video called Drummer Wanted, and it's got millions of views now on YouTube and Vimeo, and it's won all kinds of awards. And I was there when that idea hatched. So it dawned on me, took me a little bit, but it dawned on me a couple months later, hey, what about a guitar for these folks? So we made a foam board template, just a piece of foam board with my friend Dan. And we took that foam board, and I have another friend who owns a healthcare company that specializes in wheelchairs, and we sat in all these different chairs, and hey, this might work. I built a prototype. It worked and got lots of good feedback, and built a second prototype. Hey, this works better. Got some feedback from people in wheelchairs to build that second prototype, and now we've built a number of guitars, and we're focusing strictly on people that are in wheelchairs. It's a huge market that is the market needs have not been met. As if you can imagine, it's a little bit difficult to play an instrument to begin with. Secondly, it's difficult to play an instrument that's not a very good instrument. And third, it's extremely difficult to play an instrument that is uncomfortable. So I think we've solved those three problems. For this, there's a lot of people that we believe we can help, and the market is really big.
Yeah, it seems to be one of those things that it's kind of a marvel that someone hasn't done this before.
Yeah, so I've been in business, for myself and working for other folks for a long time, and I've been in the sales and marketing side, and to find a product that there's a need is one thing. There's one thing about building a better mousetrap, but coming up with a mousetrap that has not been, there's a market there's a product that the market has not been served is a real needle in a haystack. And, we came up with one. And not only that, but it's really it's really a market that can help a lot of people and bring some joy and, bring the joy of music to their life. It's completely changed. Music has completely driven my life, and I believe it has the power to change anybody's life.
Absolutely.
You mentioned you've been to the NAMM show. I've been looking at their most recent show. Was Wheelie Guitars at this year's show?
No, we didn't. We have not displayed there, and the reason is our market. How we're going about this is a little bit different than a traditional guitar company. We have a untraditional idea. And so we're going about this a little bit differently. Trying to sell guitars to people that are already buying guitars, and that is a little bit tougher road to hoe, especially because they don't have a lot of experience with the folks in wheelchairs, right? So what we're looking to do is there's two ways we can go. We can have this set up as a for-profit business, but what we're really trying to do at the moment is to raise funds to set up a nonprofit so that we can go out directly to music therapists, rehabilitation centers, hospitals, and directly to folks, individuals in wheelchairs, to provide those guitars at a really reasonable cost. Because if we try to sell these things one by one, it's going to take forever to reach the amount of people that I think we can help.
Right.
Okay, Steve, we have a new product. Yeah, a couple of years ago, we launched into the whole music therapy, music products for people with disabilities as well. And there's a huge market out there for musical products for people with various disabilities.
Yes, and our we've given out some guitars as testers, and we've sold some guitars, and this is one of those ideas and products that I haven't had one person say, that's really stupid. This is a really dumb idea. In fact, the folks that have had these things in their laps have, besides some minor, like we ought to do this, or like on any new product, people have their opinions, but the response has been extremely overwhelmingly positive for the actual instrument, for the targeted user, for the folks in wheelchairs. And what's really interesting is that since this has come about, we've had so many people that just want to be a part of it. Like, how can I help?
Right.
For instance, I spoke with a well-known manufacturer here in my town of kind of boutique instruments. He was one of the first guys to start building really high-quality guitars back in the 90s. His name is Tom Anderson of Tom Anderson Guitars. And I ran into I had a meeting. I know Tom pretty well, and I ran into his office manager and at NAMM, and she got so excited. She's like, "Mel, my husband wants to be part of this." "Great. What does he do?" "He runs a auto mechanic shop." All right.
We can build the guitar into a car.
Yeah. I use that illustration to really point out, though, that it's the idea of helping is with guitars, goes beyond a lot of the traditional things that you might think about.
So why don't we talk about some of the shapes or styles of the guitars? Are they more like a traditional lap steel type that you play in your lap, or do they go over the arms of the wheelchairs?
Well, that's a great question, and it's much simpler than that. Like I think most ideas that remain around, they're really simple. So I play lap steel guitar and pedal steel guitar. As a side note, it's a completely different animal than the six-string a six-string Spanish guitar. It's a whole different thing. And so a lot of guys end up playing the guitar in that position, right? The guys in wheelchairs, because that's kind of the only way you can fit it in. It just doesn't make if there's two arms on a chair, it certainly doesn't fit in any way other than that. So all this is really a traditionally shaped guitar that has several patented cuts on the guitar, one to clear any arm, if they happen to have an arm. And the second more important cut is on the bottom that allows the guitar to rest on your thigh in an upright position. If you can imagine holding a guitar like a normal guitar, typically in order to hold it comfortably when you're sitting in a chair or in a wheelchair, you'd have to kind of hold it all the way out so your arms are kind of extended to the left or right of your body, depending on if you're right-handed or left-handed. So this kind of brings that guitar back up into a proper sitting position, almost like if you see a classical guitar player, the guy that's sitting on the edge of the chair with his foot on a little rest, and he's playing classical guitar. So it's a much more comfortable tool to be used in a seated position. And in fact, it works in any chair. It doesn't have to be a wheelchair. I've had a lot of guys, "Hey, that's great if I'm sitting at my desk chair, at lunch, and I want to play the guitar." I've sold a couple that way too, although that's not the primary purpose of the guitar. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Stephen and I play guitar as well, and so it's just kind of interesting to get your take on, the style and how it's held and how it's made. And
yeah, Ryan's blind, so he hasn't seen the pictures online of the guitar.
So I'll have to get one to add to my collection.
and more importantly, guys, a lot of a lot of things, not just for people in wheelchairs, but a lot of products that are designed. I spent time in the design business, not for guitars, but a lot of products that are designed to fit, to be functional, don't necessarily have good form, right? So they work really well, but they just don't look pleasing. And the wheelie is based on a very traditional design. So when you're sitting in the chair, you can't tell that it's designed for somebody in a wheelchair. I mean, it doesn't look like it doesn't look like a weird guitar, if you follow what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's important because people like guitars for all kinds of reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
They like them because they want to play them. They like them because they look cool. They like them, but they like them mostly because of how they make themselves feel. And I think you feel better if you're playing something that looks great rather than playing something that looks, I don't know, what's the right word?
Funky.
Dorky. I don't know if that's the right word, but
Now, on your website, it says that it's available with 3 different pickup combinations. What are the differences sound-wise for those different combinations?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to back up just a little bit and talk about the physical aspects of the guitar and the construction. A lot of folks that are into guitars are really into this kind of thing. So I'll address anybody that's listening that might be interested in those things. There's a huge market of guitar geeks out there. So guitar geeks, this is for you. The body is, first of all, we understood very early on that the body needed to be fairly lightweight. Because a lot of folks some folks that are in chairs don't have upper body strength. We were told that by more than one person. So we made the guitar at a very lightweight, hand-selected alder. The neck is 3-piece hard rock maple. And it's 3-piece because that essentially will prevent it from warping somewhere down the road versus a 1-piece neck. The pickups... Oh, excuse me, back up. The hardware is from Hipshot. It's made in the USA. The pickups are made by Seymour Duncan, right? They're just a couple miles north of me, so I can go talk to the folks at Seymour Duncan, and they make pickups custom for this. They're one of their standard models, but they make them for the wheelie guitars. And they're really high quality pickups. They're their most popular pickups that they sell as a product, and they're excellent. They're not cheap Chinese knockoffs and imports. They really sound great. The 3 combinations are traditional S-style guitar, 3 single coil pickups that have been around forever. The second style is which is called an HSS, which has a humbucking pickup in the bridge positions it's a little more output. It's more for the guys that really are into rock and roll, rock specifically. And then the third style is 2 humbuckers, and those are for guys that are definitely into rock, maybe into jazz, or need a quiet guitar that doesn't have any. Single coil pickups tend to have a little bit of a 60 cycle, what's called 60 cycle hum, so they can be a little bit noisy. Humbuckers buck that hum to. That's where the name came from. So this is really just kind of some people like Ford, some people like Chevys, if that makes sense.
Fair enough. Is this something that could be adapted for a acoustic guitar as well?
Yes, and we started with electrics mainly because that's what I know. And, I love the electric guitar specifically. However, we understand there's a big need for acoustics, and we're certainly looking into that. That is part of our future plans because we know that not everybody can set up a Marshall stack in the rehab facility. So, I'm aware of that. But you got to go with what you know, and you got to get to market, and you got to get out and start helping people with what you have. So, yeah, that's where we're at now. We talked to some folks that were in discussions about, what it's going to take to get some acoustics built. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. We need to get a little bit of traction until we get to that point. But yeah, it's definitely on the radar screen.
Is it a little bit more complicated to change the shape of the guitar when you're talking about an acoustic as opposed to an electric?
I think the same process would apply. Like designing any new product, you come up with an initial design, you go through a series of prototypes and design stages till you come up with a product that has that looks like it's going to meet the needs of most people. So, like any new product, we have the general idea of where we want to end up. It's just a matter of going through the iterations to get there.
Right.
So it's all doable and not daunting.
Taking you off topic a little bit, I looked at your other website for your guitar custom guitar business. Tell us about the Mastadong.
Well, first of all, first thing I want to tell you is I did not come up with that title. I just want to be very clear.
I would wear that like a badge of honor if I had that.
No, there's a reason for the name, but I did not come up with that. So, once you let something loose in the world, you don't own it anymore. So I've built a lot of double-necked instruments, and double-necked instruments are kind of their own thing. They look great, and they're used for a lot of reasons. They're certainly not for everybody, but for people who are have a need for them or are professional entertainers, there's a certain visual look to them that really it almost becomes another member of the band. And so the band that I built it for is the name of Dengue Fever, and they're a band that does Cambodian pop music of the 1960s. And you may say, what the heck is that? Well, those folks that all played that music were all murdered by the Khmer Rouge communist regime in the early 70s. So that music was really almost wiped off the face of the earth. And it was really only survived in some cassette tapes and some 45 singles. And these guys went over to these two brothers, Zach and Ethan Holtzman, went over to Cambodia and dug up all this music and started a band and revived it. And so they're doing this really neat, and then I love the music. It's this really neat idea, and they're a great band. And the traditional instrument in Cambodia is called a Chapai Dong Vang. And it's like a lot of Asian instruments where it has 2 strings. Some of them have 3 strings, like a Japanese koto. And so that's the Cambodian version of it. And Zach wanted a guitar that was a combination of a Fender Jazzmaster and this Chapai Dong Vang. So it's a Jazz Master and a Chapai Dong Vang. So that's where the Mastadong comes from.
Wow.
And I built it for them. They ended up putting it on the cover of one of their records. And as I warned him before I built it, I go, look, Zach, this thing is going to become like a member of your band. And if you don't bring this thing, people are going to say, where the heck is it? And it's, it's big and huge, but no, it's worked out really well for them. And so I've built some interesting instruments like that. Of course, the market for double neck Chapai Dong Vangs is fairly limited. Although I must say I built 3 of them now, which is just mind bending to me.
Interesting.
No kidding.
Yeah, but it's certainly not. It's going to be a long road to help people with one Chapai Dong Vang double neck at a time.
That's right.
But by the way, I will tell you this: if you need a double neck Chapai Dong Vang, I'm your guy.
I think you might have an
I'm
order.
the only guy.
That's right.
I think you might have an order later today from Ryan.
I don't know.
I've been fortunate enough to build some guitars for a lot of other folks. And a couple of years ago, I built a guitar for Dave Davies of the Kinks, and I built a number of guitars for Noki Edwards of the instrumental band Adventures, and a lot of other guitars. So I've been very fortunate to do that cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, while we're on that topic, I don't know what's the craziest custom job that you've ever done?
I built a guitar for a guy that I found out later was a billionaire, and he wanted this guitar to be in his living room, and he designed his entire living room around the guitar.
Wow.
A little bit of pressure on that part.
Is this the one you did in for a guy in Hawaii? I might have seen it on your website.
Yeah, that was a couple years ago.
Yeah, that was a beautiful looking guitar.
Thank you.
So in general, tell us a little bit about the manufacturing of them. How long does one wheelie guitar take to build? So the relatively short answer is that we do all the work here in the United States right now, and there's a lot of, as you can imagine, like any process, there's a lot of steps that it goes through. You source the wood, you glue up the wood, you get it CNC'd, you get the wood cut out, and we do it all on CNC machines so that it's consistent and excellent. You finish the guitar with either a paint or a stain. You assemble the guitar. You
do all the fret work, you then test the guitar, put all the electronics in. So there's quite a few steps. The amount of time it takes is kind of a proprietary thing, but it's a number of days to go from raw wood to something that's ready to be shipped. It's not something that happens overnight, and the reason being is that our position is we can always make a less expensive guitar, but we want to make these first guitars that we're making, certainly, to compete with any guitar made in the U.S. Like you could go buy a Fender, and this guitar would compete that way on a quality level. We don't want to have to make any compromises. Will we go with we really want to go with a less expensive version so that we have the ability to reach more people.
What's the current price range for a wheelie guitar?
Right now, the list price on one is $14.99, which is comparable to a U.S. made guitar. We're offering them right now for $12.49 as an introductory, because we've been doing this for a little while. We're trying to get some market share and especially get some testimonials from some people so we can get them out there. Like I said, we're working mostly on. We've got our business plan that we're executing, and we're trying to go out and raise money to, like I said, set up a nonprofit or work with an existing nonprofit to really up the amount of guitars that we can produce and distribute. And along those lines, our ultimate goal, and well, not even ultimate, like relatively short-term goal, if we can secure enough funding, we want to set up a small shop with one or two folks in wheelchairs, doing some of the assembly work and some of the setup work. So, we have folks in wheelchairs making guitars for folks in wheelchairs and providing a couple jobs and those kind of things. That's our vision.
And I mean, there seems to be there's a lot of different societies around that. I mean, I know for here, we have a local society that we just actually talked to a few weeks ago called VAMS, which is the Vancouver Adapted Music Society, and your guitars would be perfect for them.
Yeah, thank you. There's hundreds and hundreds of, we've done lots of research on this, and it's the amount of outlets are just, it's mind bending. It really is. It's really a little bit overwhelming. For instance, I'm going to talk to United Cerebral Palsy tomorrow of Southern California, and I'm going to go take a guitar to one of their afternoon sessions and just let the folks, play and see what they think. And, just even that, how many folks with cerebral palsy just in Southern California are there?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that's just scratching the surface. So yeah, there are so many, and like you just mentioned, VAMS, there's hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of those organizations. That's why I think that's a good example of why selling these one at a time, we're just not going to be able to help nearly as many people as that need the help.
So once you came up with the idea and you started researching it, I mean, were you surprised? I don't know, was it a surprise that there was such a need, yet nobody had filled it?
Frankly, yes. And more interesting, when I did that, there's nothing. There's nothing. And the interesting thing is, every time early on when I mentioned this, and still today, well, that's a real niche market. That's a real, then the implication being boy, you're spending your time going after that tiny little market.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And, you do some extrapolations, 350 million people in the U.S., 6% of them play guitar, 10% want to play guitar, 300,000+ people in wheelchairs. If you extrapolate those numbers down, or 3 million plus in wheelchairs, you extrapolate those numbers down, you got, between 200,000 and 300,000 people to play or want to play. That's a pretty big number.
Yeah.
26,000 new spinal injuries every year. So that doesn't include people that's just one category, right? Spinal injuries, new ones.
Right.
And there's people who play guitar that now, have a new spinal injury. There's people that have never had the opportunity to pick up the instrument and learn the instrument. So now they've got the proper tool. So I can go on and on about this, but you can see that it's really shocking. And when you start putting, again, we're looking at doing a nonprofit, but when you start putting dollars to it as far as market size, it's enormous.
Right. Well, especially because it's untapped, completely untapped.
Yeah. So we've looked at a number of things like licensing to other, to some of the bigger names, and I'm just not there yet. I don't think that's the proper way to go. And because we want to be there, other companies that might do that, that's something else they do. We want to focus strictly on this so we can give the most services possible to those people in wheelchairs. And I think if we focus on anything else or let somebody else try to, lift that weight, I don't think that's the right way to go. At least not at this point, and I don't foresee that in the future. What's interesting is that a couple years ago, I had one of my guitar designs was copied and ripped off from me, and I was just furious at the time.
Yeah.
You do some work and you see somebody copying it. But the blessing that came out of that was that we've trademarked and patented this product. So I don't think it's going to be a tough sell for someone else to come up with something like this. And quite frankly, I think that'd be a real. I don't know. It'd take a special kind of person to do that. If you follow what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And how big is the team at Wheelie Guitars?
Well, the core team right now we have three of us, myself, Liam O'Malley, who you talked with, who's our director of placement. And I've worked with Liam for 20 years and I've known him for 35. And my other partner is Dan Payton. Dan's been in the guitar and music business his entire life. And he was a recording artist back in the 1960s in Hollywood and wrote songs for the Partridge Family. So he's been around, and he just brings another thing to our team. We also have folks on the manufacturing side that help out. We have folks on the marketing side that help out. We have a legal team that's come on board. One of the largest law firms in the country has offered pro bono legal support to us. We have financial help or financial planning help. We just got so many people that want to be part of this. It's unreal. So even though we're a young endeavor, we've got the resources to act like a company that's been around for a long time.
And do you guys have any financing options for the guitars?
It's a good question. Right now we don't. Although that was asked of me just the other day. Huh, interesting. Let me write that down. Okay. When I hear something one time, it's interesting. When I hear it twice in 2 days, I think part of that is that is our cost structure, because we're making them in the USA of these really good materials. By default, the guitars are not going to be the cheapest instrument or the least expensive instrument around, and they like a regular guitar, there's beyond the means of a certain segment of the population, and right now we understand that.
Right.
What types of customization can be made to the guitars?
So right now, we can do some hand customizations. That could be done. You want to do some pinstriping on them. You want a custom color that could be arranged. Although that's not really. It takes extra time, and it takes extra. There's an extra cost to it. What we really anticipate is having a couple different lines of the guitar, kind of the entry level line, the U.S. made line, like the guitar now, and then a custom shop. So if someone really wanted a really high end, nice woods, special appointments, there could be that. So, most of the manufacturers have a custom shop of that type. Right now everything's kind of a custom shop,
right?
Because of our size. Right now it'd be on a case by case basis, but I do custom work, so I love it. But right now our focus is on getting some traction and getting these guitars out to as many people as possible. And quite frankly, that's really our mission statement here is, I'm not, I don't think there's money is not, financial reward is not my driver. My driver is to be in the guitar business and help people with the joy of guitar. Right. Whatever comes of that, comes of that. I mean, I got to be, I think that's an important part. It's an important part for me at any rate.
And well, it sounds like you kind of have your hands full at the moment in terms of, getting all that in line. But have you thought about down the road, like what you'd like to see the future hold?
Yeah, I sure do. So what I anticipate is, this was us working in several different markets, like I mentioned earlier, rehabs, veterans, hospitals, music therapists. So having these different distribution channels, and having, like I mentioned, having a factory assembly shop with folks that are in wheelchairs, building these guitars for folks in wheelchairs, and working directly with people. We'd like to have some type of education program, and that would probably be partnering with an existing what's the right word? An existing educational program, whether that's online, whether that's delivered through therapists, that can be offered to someone. So, for instance, if you're using the wheelie as therapy, you have instructional materials to go with that. That's obviously, that's not something that we're adept at, but there's plenty of people that do that kind of thing. And we would see a partnership with those folks. We'd see a partnership we're already working on one right now that's under negotiation with a large foundation to facilitate distribution of guitars into veterans facilities. We're working on a pilot program. So, growing those relationships with the people who are out there on the front lines to be able to directly say, yeah, we've got these people that are in chairs that we can help in this way, and then being able to go to those people. And I think that ties directly back to, are we displaying our wares at the NAMM show? Our marketing of going directly to those people that are in contact and working with people in wheelchairs, they're not going to the NAMM show.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to the Abilities Expo,
right?
Right. They're doing that kind of thing. So I think that's where we see ourselves. And, the other, I will say this though, I do have this vision of having one wheelie in every independent guitar store in the country.
Yep.
Just one. If somebody walks in and what's that? It's for somebody in a wheelchair. And if that's a way to reach somebody in a wheelchair, that's part of the plan too. So that is part of our marketing plan, to reach out to those independent shop owners.
Yeah.
Well, it's an interesting position to be in, because really your biggest marketing hurdle isn't necessarily the product itself. I mean, the product itself sells itself. Someone in a wheelchair who wants a guitar, it's a perfect fit. It's just a matter of getting the fact that these exist out there to people, because they wouldn't even think that such an animal exists.
Yeah, because to date they haven't.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's correct. So yeah, so the 4P, it's an old model, but it still holds up. The 4 Ps of marketing, right? Product, placement, price, and promotion. So we've got the product. I say, what do you do? I build guitars for people in wheelchairs. It needs no explanation, right? That one sentence explains it all. People understand that. So the product is good. We're always working on the price. We have an initial price. We're working on getting that price down. So the place and the promotion. So we've done some very little social media networking, and the response is overwhelming. It's mind bending that people are, without really doing anything yet. Just, here we have this thing, tell your friends. So I think that the promotional part of it, we do have a formal marketing plan to do that. And then of course the place of that 4 Ps is the distribution. Where do those guitars get to? And I think we've identified plenty of places they can go to. I think the real challenge is on the focus for us is on focusing on where's the best place to start, because there's so many.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And not trying to use a shotgun, trying to be a little more focused on who we're contacting. I mean, that's the thing, is this thing is so big. It's, with just a couple of guys, it's every once in a while it gets a little overwhelming, but you know what? We're going to succeed, and I don't care what anybody says.
That's right.
I do not care.
Good on you.
Yeah.
Another quick customization question. Is it pretty much one size fits all? Like, have you found that you had to tweak the design a little bit because maybe a chair was a little bigger than normal or smaller than normal?
Yeah, great question. So when I did this first prototype and the second prototype, my very good friend owns a healthcare business, and he happens to be in the wheelchair business. So I went over to his warehouse, and he lined up every style of commercially available wheelchair. And I took that guitar and I sat in all those versions. And I'm fully abled, and I may not be the best guy to do that, but it worked. And like I said, the feedback we've gotten has been some specific feedback for specific types. But I think if you go by the 80-20 rule, we're covering at least 80% of the need out there. And I think that's probably true with any instrument. Boy, I'd like the neck to be this. I'd like the body to be that. So, I don't know. I think I'm not saying we're ever going to be done with our design. That's not the case. In fact, we've got a list of all the feedback that we've gotten, and we'll go through that when we make the next design iteration. But I think we're pretty close. And again, it's based on a guitar design that's an S-style guitar that's been around for, over half a century. So I think we're on the right track there.
And are you currently developing any sort of solution for kids in wheelchairs?
That was my next thing I'm going to. So our next product, again, once we get a little more traction with these, our next product is a kid's guitar. I've worked with a designer who's designed a children's guitar, and we feel it's going to be really that market needs to exist big time, because as we know, when kids get an instrument, they're much more likely to adopt it because they have energy, they have the focus to do it.
Yeah.
You get an old guy like me trying to learn how to play an instrument at this point. It's like, forget it.
Right.
I think that's, yeah, absolutely. That's definitely on our near-term radar screen, probably even before an acoustic, because it's simpler to do, and I think we can have an impact with folks, and I think that'll be a heck of a lot less expensive a product. And who doesn't want to see a kid playing a guitar, right? Any kid.
Okay. Well, I'm out of questions. But what about you, guitar nerds? You guys must have something.
He's already covered the guitar nerd questions.
I can go on more guitar nerd stuff if you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, what kind of guitar nerd stuff do you have?
I'll just leave you with this. Here's some more guitar nerdery. So the neck. The headstock has an 11-degree tilt back for proper string tension. It has a 0 fret for really precise intonation versus a nut. It's a very, very traditional guitar manufacturing method. It has a nice, comfortable neck that it's got a compound radius. It's a really comfortable feel. I've had nobody complain about the neck that's a guitar player yet, whether that person's in a wheelchair or not. So I think that's important. We have the jack of the guitar is facing upwards, so that when you plug the cable in, it's not digging down in the chair. It's actually kind of facing up to clear the arm of any chair, or to fit underneath a guitar strap. There are, there's in addition to a regular contour curve, like on the top of the guitar in the back, what most guitars, well, not most guitars, a lot of guitars have for comfort when you're playing. We have an additional comfort carve on the bottom, because we learned that, a lot of folks develop some type of a belly from sitting in a chair. And, one of the guys who was a guitar player was this dude was skinny as a rail, and he had a belly, and he says, yeah, you sit in a chair for 20 years, it's going to happen. And that's something, those are the types of things that we're learning as we go along. Like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. So this whole world is a completely new thing, but every day I get up, I'm treating myself as a beginner. And I'm loving what I'm seeing, and with the folks and the challenges they face by being in a wheelchair, and how they're overcoming them. It's unbelievable, and I love being around those people, because most of the people that I've met are extremely positive. And being around positive customers and guitars, now there's a business model.
Yep.
So is everything available on your website? Prices, models, customizations?
Yeah, right now we have a contact. We don't have an e-commerce set up right now. Just contact us, and we can talk to anybody about that. We purposely didn't set up e-commerce just yet, as we're still working out not some of the bugs. It's not the right word. We're still making sure that our product is is, the right product for a general release. So we're still early on, but I think we got it there. That's going to be coming very shortly.
And great. And where is your website?
We're at www.wheelyguitars. That's with a Y. WHEELY guitars.com.
Perfect. And we will include a link in our show notes as well for people.
Okay, great.
I got to try and convince my wife I need another guitar.
There you go.
Just tell her you need a Mastadong. She'll be like, yeah.
Here's a good technique for that. You ready?
Yeah.
Tell her that you're really being supportive of diversity.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, I can definitely try that.
Yeah, you may not be aware of this, but Rob is actually a instrument designer as well.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I made jingle sticks for our Christmas.
That's right. Got them right here.
I like it.
That's right. Yeah.
Anything that makes a racket, I'm in.
Excellent.
It's amazing what you can do with a stick and zap straps. That's all I'm saying. Mel, thanks so much for joining us today. It was great.
Oh, thank you guys, and thank you so much for having me. And anything I can do to help you guys, please let me know. I'm here to serve.
Absolutely, and vice versa. And let's talk again once you maybe roll out the kid version of the guitar.
Sure thing. All right, thanks, fellas. So much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mel. Take care.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
A passionate man.
Indeed.
He is.
Indeed. Doing some great work too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit frustrating in terms of, I think, public. It's one of these things that I think it's been public perception for so long that they just think, oh, somebody in a wheelchair can't play guitar, right? And so I think
or they assume that they're going to play it lap style maybe, or yeah, I mean it's really mind boggling.
It is.
Nobody's thought to
Nobody's done it.
shape a guitar.
2017 electric guitars have been around for how many years, and nobody's thought to do this yet. I mean, it's stunning.
I think of the number of times that I've picked up my guitar and sat down in a chair that had arms, and then you end up perching on the edge of the chair with your 2 inches of butt holding you onto the edge of the chair so that you can play the guitar. Nobody's thought of a guitar you can play in a chair, like not just a wheelchair,
Any chair.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. So I hope this explodes.
Yeah,
I hope we see these things everywhere.
Yeah, I think he's probably got a secondary market out there for people who are just too lazy to stand up and play guitar.
Absolutely.
Sure. And I mean, from a universal design argument, I mean, I don't know, why aren't all guitars just made like this? You could play it standing, or you could play it in a chair.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yep.
Dang it. Hey, Ryan.
Yes, Rob.
Where can people find us?
I think I've heard that before. People can find us at www.atbanter.com.
Excellent. They could also email us at info@infowars.com.
No, that's totally wrong, Rob.
That's totally wrong.
Am I on the wrong podcast? Are you not Alex Jones?
No. They can email us at atbanterpodcast@gmail.com.
That's the one.
Yeah.
They can also find us on Twitter. They can find us on Facebook, and you can find us on YouTube.
That's if Rob updates YouTube.
I knew you were going to say that. You're such a dick. You're such a dick.
Mastadong.
You're a big mastodon. All right. Well, I think that's going to about do it for this week. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we will see you next week. And
out.
No, hold on.
Oh.
We have to do the... Wait, do we even do that anymore? I forget.
What?
Do we even do the I'm Rob?
No, we don't do that anymore.
Have we phased that out?
Yeah, we did. I don't know when.
Did we phase it out on purpose?
No, not
No,
really.
I just don't
we
think
kind of
we-
stopped doing it.
Yeah.
Well, let's do it this time.
Okay.
Just for old times.
All right. So I have been Rob Minot,
And I've been Ryan Fleury.
And I remain Steve Barkley.
and we will see you all next week.
This podcast has been brought to you by Aroga Technologies. Visit Aroga Technologies online at www.aroga.com. That's AROGA.com. Music provided by bensound.com.